What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. It's the Bag of Tricks here. I have made a lot of videos about how to slide rails on skis, but one thing that I don't think I've ever really covered is how to hop onto and slide rails that are taller than the lip of the jump and require you to hit them with both feet on one side. Whether the rail is 4 inches above the top of the lip or multiple feet above it, learning to hit rails like this can be very difficult and intimidating for new park skiers when compared to a ride-on feature. And so I wanted to give you all some tips to help you understand how you can start hopping onto these types of features like a pro. Before this video gets started, I just have to shout out today's sponsor, Insta360, and their X4 camera, which is available at the link in the description. And by using that link, you will get a free snow bundle while supplies last. The POV shots in this video all use the X4 in its new slow motion mode, which shoots at the same quality as the X3 did, but is now able to shoot at 60 frames per second. POV shots like this help to get really useful angles when explaining how to do tricks, and adding the slow-mo to it makes it so much easier for you guys to see what's going on. So this is going to be a game changer for me in how I film. No camera is doing POV better right now than the X4 is. The unbeatable field of view captures everything, including where my eyes are looking for this type of tutorial, so that you guys can try to mimic what I'm doing. I'm super stoked to use this camera for future trick tips, and like I said, if you want your own, the link is down below in the description. Alright, so let's talk about prerequisites for hitting rails like this. I mean, honestly, there's not many. Number one is going to be rail slides on ride-on features. I have a full video up in the upper corner right now on how to hit your first rails. I also have a video which will be up in the corner right now about common rail mistakes, so be sure to check those out. If you do not know how to slide rails yet, you're going to need that for this video. And then we have ollies. When a rail is up above the lip, you're obviously going to need to pop yourself up onto the top of that rail, and so by working on your ollies and being able to jump up into the air from flat ground is really important before you try to hit taller rails. And again, up in the upper corner right now, I have a full breakdown of how to ollie. If you've never hit a rail from the side before, you may be wondering, what side of the rail do you hit it from? For a basic rail slide, skiers that slide rails right foot forward will hit the rail from the right side, and skiers that slide left foot forward will hit the rails from the left side. Alright, so when it comes to getting onto and sliding down these taller types of rails, there are three things that all need to work together. Those being the amount of pop you'll need off the lip to get up on top of the rail, your approach angle, or the amount you angle the tips of your skis towards the rail when you're coming off the lip, and then your approach speed, which is just how fast you're traveling into the rail. Let's start with pop. The number one most important thing that you need to make sure you do is to get the tips of your skis up and over the top of the rail. Catching your tips on the rail is very easy to do, and it's why tall rails are so scary. So the first step of hitting a new rail is ensuring you're able to get your tips to clear it. The first time you hit a rail, it doesn't hurt to pop a lot more than you might need to, even if you don't end up sliding the entire rail. Just get a feeling for how much pop you really need and make sure you're always getting those tips to clear the rails. Taller rails will require more pop, shorter rails less, and your approach angle and speed will also change the amount of pop you need. So let's talk about those next. So for approach angle, one of the biggest mistakes I see here is taking too much of an angle into rails. This is bad for a few different reasons. Number one, it can cause you to slide off the far side of the rail. Number two being that it actually opens up the possibility of hitting into the front of the rail if there's a decent amount of gap between the end of the lip and the start of the rail, which we never ever want to do, hit the front of the rail. That's just brutal. To get the perfect approach angle, you actually want to think about where you want to land on the rail, and this brings me to the number one tip that I have for beginning to understand how to do this properly, and that is that you should always be aiming to land on a spot a few feet down the rail. Sometimes I even end up landing halfway down the rail. The idea here is to leave the lip with just enough angle to get you on top of the rail while still traveling a good ways down the rail before you actually land on it. By thinking this way, you're setting up yourself to have a solid trajectory to get you all the way down the rail rather than a trajectory that's sending you too far to one side or the other of the rail. You're also helping yourself eliminate the possibility of catching your tips, because by traveling further down the rail, you're actually using the air time that the lip is going to give you a lot more, requiring you to pop a lot less, and it's just an easier transition from the lip onto the rail when you're landing further down the rail. And especially if you're hitting a down rail, if you're landing a few feet down a down rail, then where you take off of the lip will actually be about the same height, if not higher, than where you're actually going to land on the rail. Whereas if you're trying to land on the rail right near the beginning of the rail, then that landing point on the rail is a lot higher than the takeoff point of the lip, which will require a lot more pop and make it more likely to catch your tips. Even a flat rail, by traveling further down the rail, you're again using that air time to your advantage. Approach speed also comes into play here, as the faster you come into the rail, the further down you'll want to aim, and vice versa. At the same time, the faster you come into a rail, the less you'll need to pop, while the slower you come into the rail, the more you'll need to pop. It really comes down to a perfect combination of all three of these things to get you on the right trajectory going into the rail. And getting a feel for that combination will take some time and practice, but again, the main thing I want to emphasize is you want to try to aim out and down the rail. You want to be traveling down the rail with a good amount of speed before you even touch the top of the rail with your skis. So if you think you're getting the angle, speed, and pop right, but are still struggling, then I have a few more tips that might help. Firstly, you want to be landing on the rail softly with bent knees. You don't want to be slamming down onto the top of the rail. If you are, you're probably going a little bit too slow, causing you to pop more than you really need to. For most rails, there shouldn't be much of an impact when you land on them. It should be pretty smooth. And again, you want to keep your knees soft through the entire rail slide. That should help you keep that balance and help you, again, lock onto the rail smoothly. Tip number 2 is to make sure you're pedaling the second you land on the rail and locking those edges into the rail. I made an entire breakdown of pedaling and why it's so important at the video up in the corner, so be sure to check that out if you haven't seen it yet. It'll really help you lock into these rails and get you sliding them all the way to the end, which is what we're all trying to accomplish here. So there it is, guys. Not too much to talk about with this one, but the one major tip, again, travel down the rail. Try to aim for a spot down the rail and make sure to carry enough speed and get that pop right so you're landing on the rail smoothly at that spot a few feet down the rail like we're talking about, so that you can lock this bad boy in, slide it all the way to the end, and impress everybody around you, all your friends. They're gonna be so stoked. Remember, it's going to take some time. This is definitely one of those things where you have to feel it out, and it's going to be really weird at first, but eventually it will become second nature. Something will click, you'll end up getting it, and from there, you're not even gonna really think about this. Like when I'm skiing, I don't really think about this unless it's a really tall rail. Then I'm like, all right, let's focus on getting these tips up and over because I'm not trying to get wrecked. So don't worry if it doesn't come right at first, but hopefully this video helps. If it did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment any questions that you have down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to all of those. And again, be sure to check out the link in the description for an Insta360 X4 with the free snow bundle. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Hope you're all having a great ski season so far. Peace.